by film.
5,
Stand by music.
4,
Stand by announce.
3, 2, 1.
And fade up.
It's the Bellagio, the Mirage, and the MGM Grand.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Mike Wazowski.
Open your eyes.
Now tell me, where are the others?
Eat me!
King Kong ain't got on me!
What about second breakfast?
Why not? Why can't I?
How can we be expected to teach children to learn how to read if they can't even fit inside the building?
All right, well, let's do this. So welcome one and all to our somewhat delayed end of the year celebration episode of 20 Years for Beers. We are a podcast dedicated to rewatching movies from 2 decades ago while simultaneously enjoying a minimum of 4 modern beers. My name is Steve, and this is my big brother,
Tim,
and we are coming to you from Minneapolis, Minnesota. This episode marks the end of our first full calendar year. And as with last year, with Gladiator, we end on the year's Best Picture winner, which means we will be rewatching and discussing 2001's A Beautiful Mind.
Nobody move. She's looking over here. Right, she's looking at Nash.
Oh, God. All right, he may have the upper hand now, but wait until he opens his mouth. Remember the last time?
Oh, yes, that was one of the history books.
Adam Smith needs revision.
What are you talking about?
If we all go for the blonde, we block each other. Not a single one of us is going to get her. So then we go for her friends. But they will all give us the cold shoulder because nobody likes to be second choice. But what if no one goes for the blonde? We don't get in each other's way, and we don't insult the other girls. That's the only way we win. That's the only way we all get laid.
A Beautiful Mind is a story of John Nash, a brilliant but very awkward mathematician who attends Princeton University in the 1950s. While there, he struggles socially but excels academically and makes a groundbreaking discovery that puts him on the academic world map.
That's the only way we all get laid.
After his newfound stardom, he is recruited for secret government work in cryptography, and his life begins to derail. He begins to struggle with what is real or what is fake, who he can trust, and who is out to get him.
Can you repeat the part of the stuff where you said all about the things?
Did you write that yourself?
I wrote that myself.
That's really good.
Thank you. The film is directed by Ron Howard, written by Akiva Goldsman of Batman and Robin fame. And what else? Let's see. Practical Magic was before this.
Well, I have a question about that.
All right. Okay.
Yeah,
well, then we'll
flesh those out.
We'll stop there. The film stars Russell Crowe as Nash, Jennifer Connelly as his wife Alicia, Ed Harris, Christopher Plummer, Paul Bettany, Adam Goldberg, Josh Lucas, and Anthony Rapp. Do you have any memories or initial thoughts from A Beautiful Mind?
When I was thinking about that today, I know I have seen this, and I know the high points, like you mentioned, the mathematician thing, genius, mental illness, a doting, loving wife, and that's truly all about it.
Right.
I know I saw this when it came out.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I've never seen it since. So I'm actually kind of intrigued to watch it again. So, because I have such, maybe disdain is a strong word, but I remember when it came out and it won Best Picture, I was like, really? This thing? So I'm wondering if my opinion will change. How about you?
Yeah, I definitely have not seen it for like 18 years or so. I know I would have seen it after it was on video / whatever. But kind of the same. I don't recall loving it. I did like it. But then I think what happens, and this happened with like Forrest Gump in the 90s, and this is by no means Forrest Gump, but it kind of becomes a caricature of itself, and especially when after a few years, people start to think like, oh, that movie won over, say, Lord of the Rings or Moulin Rouge, and you're just kind of like, So I think that's almost a detriment to it's not fair to the movie. The Oscars take a vote. Like it wasn't even like it was. Exactly. It's literally a vote. So, it's not quite fair to hold it to that kind of a standard.
Yeah.
And I am curious as well, just to look back and say what I like about it, what I don't like about it, what either holds up or is like kind of, because some of it is a little cliche. Yeah. And we'll talk about the mental health aspect later, I'm sure, because it comes up in articles and stuff like that. So no, I don't have like any glowing memory of it, especially not in comparison to the other Best Picture nominees.
Yes.
Minus Gosford Park probably, but especially the other three. So we'll be curious to kind of see how our opinions have changed.
Yep.
All right. Well, then there we go. So our first segment, as usual, is Drinking Buddies.
Come on, not my beer.
Where we present the 4 beers we will be enjoying, hopefully, this episode. And since we love beer here at 20/4, we refer to them as our buddies. Tim will be taking us through this one. So, Tim, who are our buddies for the week?
We have one theme beer.
Of course.
Which I will somewhat laugh at because I was struggling with it for a little while. Of like, what would be a good option for this? And your text was, A Beautiful Mind, Wild Mind Brewing.
Wild Mind.
Yeah.
Not hard.
That's, ding.
Yep.
There we go.
Yeah.
So, Wild Mind from down the street from my house. Their Apocalypse Party Club, which is a smoothie-style sour ale, heavily fruited with cherry, blueberry, and milk sugar.
Sure.
Which I poured one of them out, and it's a very dark sour that we can see.
That's the cherry and blueberry, I'm sure.
I'm sure it is. And then the other
colors
ones aren't thematic, but are somewhat kind of in the vein of Oscar recognizing best of a year, like ones we might like.
Sure.
So
we'll go with that.
As well as what was in our fridge. So
there you go.
Yeah, there we go. Out of San Diego, Modern Times.
Hey, you were there recently.
Yeah, you're right. I was there.
Yeah.
Their Alien Radio Hazy Citra Double IPA.
Nice.
Have you had this one?
Probably. I haven't checked in on stuff a lot. Yeah. So
I'm excited.
You're excited? Feel these nipples.
Then we have out of Hopkins, LTD Brewing, their Emily's Dream 7th anniversary tequila barrel aged sunrise style sour ale. So a tequila sunrise sour. And then we're going to end with Surly Brewing out of Minneapolis, their Darkness traditional end of year Russian Imperial Stout. But this year they had a bit of a change where they did some variants.
Variant identified.
So I'm pretty stoked for that. This one's their bourbon barrel aged Russian Imperial Stout with vanilla and cinnamon added. So don't know if it's Madagascar vanilla. But
well, then we might as well just throw it down the drain.
Dang it.
Yep.
But those are our drinking buddies.
Cool. Thank you. So our next segment then is the social network.
If you guys were the inventors of Facebook, you'd have invented Facebook.
Where we take a look back at the... Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. It's so late. Man, I'm throwing off your groove.
No! You threw off my groove.
No, whatever. I can read again.
Let's do it again.
Where we take a look back at the critical and fan reception from 20 years ago. This will come as a shock to literally nobody who listens to us. I do not have a review. At all. So
I actually am shocked by that.
Well, the last few I've done some, but this week I kind of thought, I usually have time at work to just do it during the day.
Yeah.
And then that didn't happen. And so today was busy at work too. And I was like, well, okay, I'll stop by somewhere ahead of time. And I wasn't even going to fake it. So I don't have a review. So
wouldn't it be crazy if I did it? I'm like, no, I have some. But
yeah, whatever. I'd be like, and pause. Let's do some research.
And we'll come right back.
But you can take it away, Tim. What do you got for social network?
IMDb rating is 8.2 out of 10.
Really?
I was pretty surprised by that, to be honest.
Huh.
So I was like, wow. I mean, that's like Monsters, Inc. kind of, that type of, if it's in the 8s, that's pretty solid. So
I just watched Good Will Hunting again last night randomly, and I think that's higher than Good Will Hunting's IMDb.
That's
I'm going to double check while you continue.
That's blasphemy.
Yeah.
I might have to not do IMDb rating anymore because that's sacrilegious.
Yeah, people are dumb. American public, you are worthless.
Can't account for taste. I would say this was one of the funny ones to kind of see through because, again, my memory was absent of what it was.
8.3. So you're safe. Yep, we're safe.
Okay, tragedy averted. It was pretty polarizing, I would say. It was the reviews across the board were either like a vein of one of the most affecting movies ever made about mental illness and genius coexisting, and many were like super critical of it being incredibly formulaic and manipulative. So I could not find really that were like middle of the road. It was typically, it was very, very polarized. So Peter Travers of Rolling Stone said, sadly, director Howard blands out in the final third, using tear-jerking to turn a tough, true story into something easily digestible. Until then, however, you'll be riveted. Rick Groen of Globe and Mail. See, we got to find these deep cuts of that. In the hands of a better director than Ron Howard, such a protean mix of reason and madness could have made a tale of Shakespearean complexity. Instead, all we get is a feel-good flick. And then our big man, Raj. Roger Ebert gave it 4 out of 4 stars, saying, the movies have a way of pushing mental illness into corners or caricatures. It is typically grotesque, sensational, cute, funny, willful, tragic, or perverse. In A Beautiful Mind, it is simply a disease which renders life almost, but not quite impossible for Nash and his wife Alicia before he becomes one of the lucky ones to pull out of the downward spiral.
Interesting.
Okay. So he enjoyed it.
Brought perspective to it. All right.
Compared to the ones from Lord of the Rings, I was happy to see him do that. For Academy Awards that year, was up for 8 nominations, ultimately winning 4 categories. So the nominations were Best Film Editing, Best Makeup, Best Original Score by James Horner, and Best Actor for Russell Crowe. And wins, the 4 categories were Best Adapted Screenplay by Akiva Goldsman, Best Supporting Actress, Jennifer Connelly, which I honestly completely forgot that she had actually won for this until I did the research today. I was like, oh yeah, she's an Academy Award winner.
Oh yeah.
And Best Director for Ron Howard, and Best Picture. So that's Social Network.
Well, perfect. So, all right, we are going to pause the recording and start the film. If you are inclined, go ahead and watch along with us. But we are now going to watch 2001's A Beautiful Mind.
Think that's better than being crazy?
We'll need to start you on a higher run of insulin shocks and a new medication.
No. Has to be another way.
Schizophrenia is degenerative. Some days may be symptom-free, but over time, you're getting worse.
It's a problem. That's all it is. It's a problem with no solution. And that's what I do. I solve problems. That's what I do best.
This isn't math. You can't come up with a formula to change the way you experience the world.
All I have to do is apply my mind.
There's no theorem, no proof. You can't reason your way out of this.
Why not? Why can't I?
Because your mind is where the problem is in the first place.
I can do this. I can work it out. All I need is time.
Well, welcome back to 20 Years 4 Beers, where we have just finished rewatching the Best Picture winner from 2001, A Beautiful Mind. As usual, we jump right into our reaction segment that we call High Fidelity.
Top 5 side ones, track ones.
Where we discuss our top takeaways of any kind from rewatching the film. It will be interesting to see how much we compare to other films, I think, that we've watched lately. So we watched most of these, and I think by nature, the Oscar comparisons and critiques, are out there. So do you have you want to get it started, or what do you think?
I'll defer to you.
Well, I don't have necessarily thoughts. I found myself watching for flaws. Similar to, I'll probably bring this up a few times, but rewatching The Sixth Sense or other movies that have somewhat twist endings or whatever, you kind of find yourself, okay, I know what happens here. I guess spoiler alert. I mean, it's halfway through, right?
Yeah.
But it's mental illness. He's got schizophrenia, and so these people are not real.
Yeah.
Some of them. I remember thinking, I think I have a very different memory of this movie than rewatching it now, right? Of just, I remember thinking how bad they were at that, and actually they were really good. For the most part, I thought there would be flaws in him interacting with Bettany, Ed Harris, and the little girl.
Yeah.
they did a really good job. I mean, one that stood out to me was even the girl, she's dancing in the courtyard, and the pigeons don't fly away.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying pigeons don't always fly away, but if kids run through a group of pigeons, they fly away typically. There's a few. The car chase scene is really stupid when it comes to that issue. I mean, if it were a different story, that bothered me a little bit. But when I was rewatching it, I was kind of like, I was actually pretty impressed how well they did in not having him interact with these people. Like a door would shut and somebody else would come in. I mean, they did a really good job. Even Bettany didn't open the early on. He didn't open the door. Somebody else opened the door, and Bettany
in the library or whatever.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, I do. So, the very first point I had written down was watch for flaws.
Yep.
And I mean, the car chase scene was stupid, but it's not necessarily a flaw because it's theoretically in his mind, right?
Sure.
So it's his memory of it. Nobody else is out there seeing it. So it makes sense. It's more of a narrative for the film. But aside from that scene, I thought they did a really good job.
Yeah, you mentioned that with the beginning of, knowing, having seen it, that there are figments of his mental illness, that delusions that are not real.
Yeah.
Paul Bettany's character, the niece, and then Ed Harris's character. And yes, they do a really good job of panning over and then panning back, and all of a sudden they're there.
Mm-hmm.
And so but if you didn't know that, it's not so jarring that it's obvious on the first watch.
Mm-hmm.
Where I remember the time being
Ed Harris coming out on the stairs.
Yes.
When
at the building.
And that would make sense from a government agent.
Yeah.
Showing up out of nowhere.
Exactly.
They did a really good job with that.
But nothing was so obvious where it's like, what is happening? I will say one flaw near the end that I saw was when Ed Harris's character is like in the Princeton courtyard or whatever, and he like raises a hand and like whatever his name is, Josh Lucas, moves around his arm.
Yeah.
Just avoids him. Like, oh,
yeah.
No,
yeah,
he would be walking right through it. But that's okay. Minor quibble. Yes, it was those pieces with the schizophrenia. I was struggling with what to make of it in that kind of middle third of the movie.
Okay.
Where there was the element where the interactions one-on-one are one thing, but as it becomes much more grandiose, where he's at these Wheeler labs, gets something on his arm, he's interacting with these tech agents and like lab agents, as it becomes much more fantastical in his delusions, it felt somewhat challenging for me to even feel compelled by it, because it's like it's becoming so absurd, where his fantasies are, so I struggled with empathizing with it from a narrative device, where the one-on-one connections and having these elements where you could see him interacting with Paul Bettany or Charles and the niece, like I found that much more compelling. When it went someone off the rails, which I can appreciate from a standpoint of, as the schizophrenia they talk about would degenerate and it would become much more encompassing or like overwhelming. So I get that. It just was challenging knowing all these details as a viewer. It's the things that I think were much more connective that hit me. Like when his wife walks back when the baby's being put in the bath to find it.
Shed. Yeah. Yep.
It was the smaller emotional connections that had more impact than the dramatic. I agree. The car chase scene, I was like, oh God, get past this. But
I think some of those become, that's more of a narrative on the first viewing.
Yes.
Because when you're first viewing it, it's like, what's going on here?
Yes.
You don't
what
really
is
know.
happening?
And all that was in the first half.
Yes.
And I think what works for this, to me, a lesser movie would have made the twist-ish that he's seeing these people at the end. A lesser movie, it would have been, and don't get me wrong, I actually like this movie, but I keep thinking of Identity. I don't know if you remember that movie.
I do remember with John Cusack.
With John Cusack and stuff. And at the end is the big twist and reveal and stuff. And but I think what makes this different is the twist is not the point of the story, and so why it's literally halfway. It's like midway through the film. It's like before the schizophrenia is diagnosed and after.
Yes.
And I think the first third is pretty good.
Yeah.
And then there's a point where, you, like, to your point, you're kind of like, where is this going? This feels like this is going off the rails.
Yes.
But then that is almost supported by the schizophrenia. Like, all of a sudden, it's right at the right time, the schizophrenia comes and you're like, oh, okay. Yep. Now this is where it is. So I think one of the reviews you talked about said like it gave it like a too much of a watered down ending kind of a thing.
Yes.
I didn't necessarily agree with that. I think I enjoyed that the twist came in the middle, or the sort of the reveal.
Yeah.
And then I was hooked when it came to, that's where I was actually enjoying that like 30 minutes after that. I was like, this is really interesting to me.
Yes.
How they deal with this.
Yes.
So I thought, to me that I just really like that. I don't want to give any credit to Akiva Goldsman by any stretch of imagination.
Yes,
and we'll talk about that later. But I do like the narrative that it wasn't, we're going to keep ramping up. And then in the last 20 minutes, you're going to find this out. And then he's going to win a Nobel Prize at the end. Like it didn't, that would have been like, what are we doing here? I just sat through an hour and 45 minutes in this. So I did like that, where the twist sort of like reveal was right halfway in.
I think we talked about another podcast before, maybe Memento, or I forget when, but that, there's a difference between confusion and mystery.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the first half, when it was a solid foundation of, here's this person, he's a genius, okay, cool. And then you go through, and then it becomes this weird spy intrigue thing. And it just becomes, I remember actually having seen it again now at the theater, being like, what is happening? Like, what is this? It just seems odd. And I agree with you that it was great that it didn't sustain it for an hour and 45 minutes of this, where it'd be really challenging. And then boom, that mystery is answered halfway through.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes, how do you truly grapple with this in the time where it was well before modern medicine, where they would have better medicine? And so, yes, to that point, it was kind of a dovetail to...
Real quick, before you move on,
sure.
The only thing I want to add to that is, I think what is interesting to me is, like, it does, knowing the ending, and I don't often praise critics, but the ones who get it right, it is interesting to me how they can see it in the moment. Like, he so clearly thought highly of himself.
Oh,
and he
totally.
thought so highly of himself that the government would do this.
Yes.
And so in that sense, it does make sense of how it would get there. Because in his mind,
clearly, I'm going to stop the Russians.
Yeah.
These guys are coming to help me.
He got brought in for a code breaking thing for real.
Yeah.
But then his mind is like, that's it? This is it? No, this can't be it. And then he ramps it up from there.
Yep.
So I do think from a narrative standpoint, some of the over-the-top action gets like, whatever, but I could see how he would get there in his mind.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that, so on second viewing, cool, trademark on second viewing podcast. But I do think they did a good job with that. So
one thing that stood out to me was, I made a note about, with the idea that we're watching these 20 years later, what really hooked me was the half and then after point where it was grappling with the domestic experience of the dutiful wife, which we know was not really how it happened, but whatever, for the movie standpoint.
Yeah.
The dutiful wife and the challenge of...
She was dutiful back then.
Yes. Sorry. Back then.
Yeah.
But the scene where he has to go through the shock treatment type thing is really tough to watch.
Seizures. Yeah.
Like it because of that connection of, having that person in your life that has to watch you go through it for the benefit. And then when the baby's in peril, it's these things that connected me. Whereas again, like I said, the fantastical things, it was really just annoying. Just get past this crap. But I was impressed with, seeing it again now, knowing my experience. I had hoped when it started, we said, I hope this is better than we remember it. It is. So one of the thoughts, kind of overall thought is
Right.
it's better than I expected it to be. Still have a lot of problems with it, and we'll talk through it and challenges, but it is far better. Certainly not Best Picture winning award, but it was better overall than I expected because of, I think, the second half when it starts to have these connections and the item here. So that was one thing that connected, or at least hit me in a way that I wasn't expecting. But then again, when it was happening, I was like, oh, that's right. This scene did suck with the insulin shock and all those items to kind of treat it. So
yeah, one of the reasons I very much disliked this film the first time around.
Yeah.
And I will say in my younger days, you know, like that kind of stuff, I think back then I wanted my films to be more accurate.
Yeah.
Right. And I wanted them to be more like
purity test.
Right. I mean, that are based off of real stories, obviously.
Sure.
But then this is also the same year of Pearl Harbor. So, I mean, if we're accepting inaccurate stories.
Yeah.
But as I have gotten
that was a
older,
fictionalized take in a historical event.
But this is also a fiction. I mean,
this is
what I'm saying is, like, I've come to appreciate now fictional movies based on actual events.
Sure.
This is a fictionalized version of a real person.
Yeah.
It's not a documentary. No. And I mentioned King Richard to you off podcast. Similar. There's some controversy about how it doesn't, reflect Richard Williams in a good light. And I go, because all you have to do is do research on it. That's not the point.
Yes.
If I wanted to make a documentary, you'd make a documentary. We're making a fictionalized tale of a modern or of a real life thing. And I think that's where this comes into play for me. And when I first watched it, I was like, I'm bugged about the fact that they weren't married at this time. Or, they were married once and then they were broken up for like 30 years and they're married again. But I don't know.
Or that she's from El Salvador.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like,
Jennifer Connelly ain't from South America.
No, exactly.
Or Central America. But
and so you just go, okay, you have...
Yeah.
I used to get so mad at that when it came to... And that's what bothered me. Now what bothers me is more like bad writing. And,
yes.
Right? So I'm more upset about Akiva Goldsman. And there's some good lines in this movie for sure.
Yeah.
But this movie outkicks its coverage when it comes to the writing, like the source, like not just the source material, but just the screenplay. This is not very good. So anyway,
to that point, so that was one thing that stuck. So we're gonna get into the bitch fest. We'll talk.
Do it. Well, for you, it's more of a bitch fest.
Well, it's that writing piece. To the challenge of a movie like this is that despite it being based on a true love story, these people existed.
Yeah.
It's a very strong love story, and as far as comes and goes, and like this is
ended up back together.
They lifelong connection. Exactly.
They married and died together.
It translates really poorly to the screen at the beginning of their courtship.
Mm-hmm.
The writing of that type of first date scene.
Mm-hmm.
Never believed for a second that this graduate student with this professor, who is weird, an odd duck, dismissive, arrogant, would somehow attract someone that would say, you know what, there might be a diamond in the rough with that guy. And they go to this soiree, clearly, and the first date scene with the stars, where he's pointing out, there's a lot of stars, you can make shapes out of anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's just super lame. It's like, it's so bad in terms of that connectivity, knowing that it's going to be a romance of their life, they have a kid and marriage, all that stuff. But again, the writing clicked for me where only when it gets further into the movie, when their marriage is tested through his mental illness, does it feel real, like actually earned, that this would be type. And even then they have moments where like, this is real, and she does his face, like it's just ugh.
I need to believe that something extraordinary is possible.
Like movie of the week shit. But I just felt I was so annoyed in that courtship at the beginning that I was like, as well as, can we not, like, there ain't no way from a casting standpoint that this dude, that somehow Jennifer Connelly is going to be attracted to this schlub of a man to the point where it was so jarring to me that I was like, yeah, I can't get behind this. And then eventually
you outkicked your coverage?
But absolutely.
Come on. What are you
1,000%. But still, you watch this and go, come on, have it be a bit more realistic that there's a connection there that
there definitely
the writing
needed
was
to
so
be
bad.
more of a courtship of for me to believe, not even believe. I mean, we do look at movies now through a modern lens, right? And
sure,
I mean, I can't speak to what it's like to be a woman now, let alone in the 50s. So, I mean, if she was like, I don't want to deal with this crap and he's my guy, like, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to go too much into that of saying, like, I agree on a, like, modern telling of this, of being like, yeah, but for her, if she's more, if she's a beautiful intellectual,
yeah,
most of the guys probably going to her are just like attractive guys trying to get with her because she's hot, and she wants the mind as opposed to just the physical part of it necessarily. So, but again, it's inaccurate.
Even still,
it's inaccurate. I mean, almost everything about this movie, minus the core story, is pretty inaccurate.
Yeah.
No, I don't necessarily have a bitch fest. Because I already talked a little bit about it, but
I have one more.
Oh, go ahead. I'll play off yours. That's fine.
In my humble opinion, I think Russell Crowe is really bad in this movie. Like, I found him, and I think he's a really good actor. I mean, a year ago, when we watched Gladiator, I was like, holy cow, like, he actually deserved the award at the time.
Well, yeah.
And
I mean, he deserved it for The Insider, but that's fine.
Sure. But I felt like he carried a movie of that caliber. This sticky mannerism and like facial tics, it felt like a poor man's Rain Man of Dustin Hoffman back in the day. Of this, Ebert talked about in his review about, having mental illness becoming someone put in the corner or a caricature. This felt like a caricature to me, where I just couldn't get behind him in any way. So that was a surprise to me from how talented I think Russell Crowe is. I was really unimpressed with him in this. So that was a huge issue for me.
What's interesting is, I'm not going to say I was impressed by him, but I actually think he's way better than I remember him being in this. And really that is, so it turns out they actually filmed this movie almost entirely in sequence. From start to finish. They didn't.
Oh, most movies jump around.
Right. Most movies jump around. When you can get a set, you can do this. You're all over. Like 90 to 95% of this film was filmed in sequence. Specifically so Crowe could not bleed his mannerisms. And the biggest time I noticed it was actually from when he went from Princeton to being at the Institute. Like, when he walks into that codebreaker thing, and he's just he is a very cocky guy. So he does have this different mannerism, and then it breaks down for a while. I'm not saying that the mannerisms are necessarily so well acted, and they can certainly be cliche and not great. But I did, knowing that ahead of time and kind of watching it, and I'm like, oh, I can see where in this moment he didn't just come off of a scene from the beginning of the movie there, what I mean? So I actually thought he was better than I remember, but I also remember him not wanting him to be nominated for Best Actor for this.
Yes.
I mean, like, my bar was pretty low when it came to that.
Yeah.
So I actually thought he was way better than I recall him to be. But that's probably also just, I haven't watched it in a while, right?
Yes. It was the surrounding characters that I found to be far more interesting.
Oh yeah,
and better acting
Bettany
and caliber,
Connolly and everyone. Josh Lucas is great. Yep.
That was the weirdest part, where everybody else around him, Ed Harris, who's always, I mean, of course he's solid. Everybody was great, and Crow in this was just the weakest link, which was shocking to me. He could have been still good relative. So anyway, I was very surprised at my reaction. I
thought he was where he bothered me the most was his herky jerky walking around.
Yes,
that I mean his conversation style,
physicality of him,
like Nash, and that's where he bothered me the most.
And bitch fest over. I do have some kind things to say about it.
Well, no, I mean, so far we're actually nicer than I thought you would be. To be honest with you,
you're just watching me like, oh god, Tim's gonna be a jerk about this.
I mean, I don't have too much more in the sense of kind of high fidelity when it came to watching it. I actually, one thing I will say is I appreciate it more from a mental health standpoint than I did back then.
Yes,
I was actually, and again, I'm not a pro.
Yeah,
I don't play one on TV. I was really impressed. Again, we look at it through a modern lens.
Sure.
So obviously the treatment that they give him and the understanding of it.
Yeah.
Right. Because even Anthony Rapp's character doesn't come because he's too scared to show up. He basically disappears after the first third of the movie. So I actually was very pleasantly surprised at its treatment of mental health. And Ebert, I think, talked about it, right? Of saying, like, in the past, we have, it's either like Cuckoo's Nest or, this was after it, but I think it was K-Pax before this, or it was, there's all these like movies that have like a pseudo mental health problem.
Yep.
And almost always it's a joke or.
Brad Pitt in 12 Monkeys.
Yeah.
Like
although. That movie's really good.
He is
really
good
in it.
He's good, but he's that.
But he's legit crazy though too, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, but still, that's what you have. Either you're over the top crazy, or it's like funny.
Yes.
There's not a lot that's, mental illness, not disabilities necessarily, but that it's so underappreciated, even to this day, but especially 20 years ago and before that. So. I was really impressed, actually, how their handling of the mental illness side of this.
Yeah.
In that, Adam, oh my gosh. Goldberg, thank you. I was going to say Driver, because I was just thinking of sexy Adam Driver, apparently.
Yeah.
But Adam Goldberg and Josh Lucas, like when they do encounter him after this, they are on like pins and needles, right? And so like he brings the humor to it, which is really helpful, and it like breaks it down.
Yeah.
But they're not he didn't just get shoved in an institution or anything like that. I mean, they could have really, and that didn't happen in real life either, but they could have really handled it in such a stereotypical way.
Yep.
So I did appreciate the handling of the mental health side of it and how hard it is for the spouses. I mean, Jennifer Connelly does a great job.
She's so good in this.
Yes.
She's so good.
Does a great job of really being steady and understanding and like not knowing what's going on, but then seeing her break down, and so well done. So to your point about the principal character or the side characters and how his story affects them.
Yeah.
That's where you get it. Like that's where they handle mental health really well.
It humanizes the, that impact. I agree. I was really happy to see that, where it isn't just his struggles, it is the residual impact. And certainly at the time of, mid 1900s, of how do you grapple with this, where it's not going to be supported, it's going to be shunned, it's going to be seen as an embarrassment. Just like I really appreciated that it was time sensitive,
right?
That it didn't have it be this caricature in some ways of the people around him. But yeah, Jennifer Connelly, I wrote that down. She's an actress that she's probably been chosen in many ways because of how gorgeous she is. that
can't disagree.
That I mean, she just is, but it's in some ways a disservice to the talent because maybe the roles didn't allow her to really lean into that. It's
like Kate Beckinsale as well. Same kind of a thing. Same era, same everything.
Yeah. Sans Pearl Harbor, but yes. But
she was good in Pearl Harbor, though.
No,
Kate Beckinsale was fine in that.
She had moments of
yeah.
Yes, the love story aside, yes.
Oh,
in the battle sequence and so yeah, she could pull it off. But to this point, Jennifer Connelly was so damn good.
Yep,
really, really good, and I'm actually happy that she won the Oscar because she was the rock of his recovery. That it did feel earned when he gave his Nobel speech, and it was her not commenting on the terrible makeup. But anyway, the effects
were nominated for best makeup. Tim
didn't win.
Yeah.
But yes. Last thing I'll say is it a staple of tortured genius movies that writing complex algorithmic equations must be done on a window?
Yes.
Like, what is this trope out there?
Did I mention Good Will Hunting?
Yeah, you mentioned that you watched it last night.
Yeah, I watched it last night.
Social Network.
Yep.
Like all these things where everybody's just writing stuff on a window.
Yeah.
With these
Do
writers.
you not have pens?
You're in a freaking library, man. What? I feel bad for the custodian coming and be like, what the shit is this?
At least
marking
Will
on the
Hunting
window
erases his stuff.
Exactly. Yes, and one's in his dorm at Social Network. Like they're in his dorm, but he's just in the library marking his territory with his equations. Like, get a freaking 3M pad, write it up. Anyway, so that was just laugh. This, I don't know what is like a screenwriter 101.
Yeah, like
tortured
pens.
math genius, equations on a window. So I will say that ultimately, I'm torn on this, to be honest. From what the limited information I have about Nash, and this paints a pretty broad brush with it. It seems like his life was incredibly interesting and far more compelling than what came through on the screen.
I totally agree. It's one of the things I hated most about this before.
Right?
Like they were trying to make a romantic version of this.
Yeah.
But his real life could have actually been, even from a drama standpoint, more like, but he's not a redeemable character. They make it in this movie, he's more redeemable.
Yeah. But like at the end,
in real life, cheated on his wife multiple times, men and women. He had at least one child out of wedlock.
Yikes.
He was not a good guy, but he was struggling with mental health. It really could have been an overcoming even more so of this. But they wanted it to be an overcoming from a love story. And she's wearing her ring at the Nobel Prize ceremony, but they're not married at the time. So, I'm not saying she wasn't there. I don't know that much information, but I know they weren't married from 1963 to 2001. So, like,
jeez.
At some point, but she probably was there. So, they had a kid together, and so I don't deny any of that stuff, but that always sort of bugged me of just saying, like, kind of what could have been.
Yes.
From the middle part would have been a little darker, but I actually think it would have been more intriguing. Not the fantastical side of it, but the real life side of it actually would have been more intriguing from a drama standpoint.
Follow me on this little rabbit hole.
Love it.
Comparison. We watched this year, earlier, the fantastic movie Blow, which is a true life story, somewhat fantastical at times, but a retelling of George Young's life, where he was an irredeemable character.
Correct.
And a person who ruined lives.
Countless lives.
Yeah. And that was far more compelling from a connectivity standpoint, and seeing he was...
To the main character.
And the destruction he caused because of actions. Not to equate it to mental illness at all, but I think about now that I'm kind of...
George made his choice.
Yes, he exactly. Yes. But that's the thing where they told that story warts and all for this character, and this felt like a sanitized version of a Nobel Prize winning, Princeton teaching mathematician who changed the game for economics. And that's where I think my challenge is.
Sure.
Is that that's just wash away some of the like the ungood happy parts, that the warts and all.
Right.
That to me is a concern I have with it just being a sterilized version of this feel good effort that I remember seeing. Now that I think about, like, at the time walking, I'd be like, nah, whatever. Now watching it could have been so much better. So much better. Not as bad as I expected.
Correct. Yeah. No, I liked it a lot better than I remember.
Could have been so much better.
No, I agree.
So much more interesting.
Well, all right.
That's right.
So we're going to move on. So we are going to move on to our beer reaction segment that we call Drinking Buddies, the sequel.
Let's get weird.
This is where we remind you of our beers and provide you with our expertly detailed and beer sommelier-like reviews.
Cicerone.
There you go. Tim will walk us through, once again, what do we got?
For a theme beer, we had Wild Mind
Hey-o.
Artisan Ales out of Minneapolis. Their Apocalypse Party Club smoothie style sour ale, heavily fruited with cherry, blueberry, and milk sugar. Why milk sugar? Like, why are you?
What are you gonna do?
It's
Yep.
somewhat redundant, but anyway, I liked it. It was solid. It was a nice. Wild Mind makes good stuff, and this was a pretty good sour. I had a 4 for it. The flavor came along well. It wasn't as smoothie as I kind of expected, like thicker.
Yeah, I do think the milk sugar brought down, because it was blueberry and cherry, and those are really tart.
Sure.
Well, blueberry not as much, but especially cherry is tart. So I do think the milk sugar is more to bring the tartness down.
Yeah.
Totally palatable, really good.
Yeah.
Some of our listeners who have told me in the past they aren't big Wild Minds fan would like this. I think
is wrong with them? Oh.
There are a couple, but I'm just saying, well, they're a pretty pompous brewery, as you are well aware.
I don't care about.
Yeah, well, you do too. You do too. We've talked about it in the past.
They are like, some of their words are dumb when they describe things. Anyway,
yeah, you kind of have to roll your eyes sometimes at what they do.
Yes,
as long as you keep producing good beer, it's fine.
Yes,
this I had a 4 out of 5 as well. I mean, it's a good, solid sour, very enjoyable. It's not a world beater, but it's gonna be good.
Yeah, it was quite delightful. Then we had Modern Times out of, gosh, what was it?
San Diego. It's out of California. They have a lot of locations.
That's true.
You were in LA.
They in Napa or whatever. Even Oregon. Their Alien Radio Hazy Citra Double IPA. I had a 4.5 for this. I find this to be a fantastic, really good Citra Double IPA. I like it a lot. Yeah.
I had a 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
I stayed with about a 4. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good. It wasn't like, oh my God, this is amazing. It was good. So I'm not like, I think we've talked about it with Modern Times. Modern Times is a victim of their own success.
Sure.
Right? The high end of their stuff is even way better, and so, but it was really good.
I'd seek this out again.
I really, if we're on tap or something like that, or when we're in California next time I see it, I'd be like, sign me up. It's really good.
Yeah.
But I wasn't like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So I had 4 out of 5.
Yeah. Then we had LTD's Emily's Dream Tequila Sunrise Barrel Aged Sour Ale. It's a 4.25 for me. This is such a delightful beer. Again, their barrel aging is insane. That it's only 6.0% like ABV. Like, I still am amazed. And when I think of barrel aging, it's going to knock your socks off. No, it's just solid.
No, I agree.
Really solid.
Yeah.
And it's the combination of the tequila barrel aging with the sour. I really like this.
I agree. I have 4.25 as well. I think LTD, though they lack a lot of things on their regular beers, their barrel aging has always been on point.
Yeah.
Always. It's just all of it. It's been great. So I have 4.25. The margarita sour is really good. But this one this year especially was actually better than the margarita sour was. So the tequila sunrise. So I seek it out. It's really good.
It's very good. Then we finished on Surly Brewing out of Minneapolis, their bourbon barrel aged Russian Imperial Stout Darkness with vanilla and cinnamon added. I like this one. It was a 4.25 for me. I bought it thinking it was more like a s'mores thing, but then I'm like, oh wait, no, there's no graham or whatever it is. Just the vanilla and cinnamon, quite nice.
Yeah, I
it was a
didn't
good
catch
amount.
too much cinnamon, which is why I liked it more.
Sure.
There wasn't too much. I had a 4.25 as well.
Yeah.
Surly is somewhat the opposite of Modern Times for me, is that I want to rate them lower. I'm like,
come on, impress me.
Come on, you really gotta jerk my chain.
Yeah.
I had a 4.25 as well, though. I mean, Darkness is always something they've done well.
Yes.
You have to just tip your hat to them.
Yep.
But no, I agree, because some of their other ones are like too sweet, but this one's really good. I had a 4.25 as well.
And I like that they're having these variant options come in tall boys.
Yes.
So you can just buy, like, I don't need a huge 0.75 for this stuff. So those were the reactions.
There we go. All right, well, we come now to our final segment, which is Quiz Show.
The exciting quiz program, 21.
Where we search for trivia surrounding our subject film and try to stump the other. I do have a couple.
Me too.
All right.
Yeah.
So, I have one that I'm wondering, I can't recall if we did this last year with Gladiator.
We'll find out.
I'll ask it first. I'll go first.
Proceed.
So Russell Crowe was nominated 3 consecutive years for Best Actor for Insider, Gladiator, and this film. Can you name the actor or actress who was nominated 5 consecutive years?
You did not ask this because holy cow. 5 years in a row? In one of the main categories?
In acting, yeah. I assume there's like costumers or some other people, or John Williams has been nominated 5 years in a row.
Yeah, every year. But
there is an actor or actress
5
consecutive years
in a row. I honestly have no idea. I mean, Meryl Streep.
She was actually nominated like 8 or 9 times total, but yeah.
Oh, that wouldn't be Meryl Streep then.
No, that's like 19.
Dear God, no, tell me. I want to know. I'm a failure.
Betty Davis was nominated from 1939 to 1943 or 44 or whatever.
That.
I know, but yeah, she won in 39, but then, yeah, she was nominated for 5 consecutive years for her. Yeah.
Huh. 5 times.
Lots. There are actually more actors than you would think. I think it's 15 have been nominated for 3 consecutive.
Wow.
Or something like that, you know, in acting categories. But yeah, Betty Davis was 5.
Jeez. Kudos to her.
She got a damn song named after her. Meryl Streep can't say that.
That's true.
Suck on that, Meryl.
Suck on that.
Yeah.
Meryl. Composer. Sorry, we didn't really, okay, really quick before we get into the quiz though.
Yeah, I was wondering. I'm surprised you didn't talk about the score.
I had a quiz show about it, but let's just talk about James Horner, the composer of this movie, the score. We joked about it. For musical score fans, he just, it's him.
Yeah.
When his music comes in, James Horner. Here we go. It was fine. I found this overused at times.
It was overused. I did like the female voice in there. Like I did like that he hasn't used much in some of his other ones. So at least in that, but otherwise, yeah, you're like, oh, I'm sorry, Apollo 13 is all over this thing.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, it's Field of Dreams at one point.
Yes.
Yeah, anyway. Yep.
Doesn't
mean he's not good. Talented dude.
But the thing that's funny is, like, composer James Horner, he has scored, well, he did, unfortunately, before he died in 2015.
Yes.
He scored 121 movies.
Good Lord.
Before he passed away. And I think it was 61 when he died, which means, that's insane amount of productivity in that 40-year career he might have had.
Sure. You copy yourself. It's pretty easy.
Right?
Yeah.
Just be like, copy, paste. Yep. There we go. And he was nominated, though, for 10 Academy Awards in song and score categories. Side note, he scored 11 movies in 1993 alone.
Good Lord.
Wow. It's insane. He won 2 Academy Awards, though, in 1998 for score and song. Can you name that film and song?
Titanic, My Heart Will Go On.
There you go.
Come on. But it is, and that is, I think, Titanic. You hear that in here too, that violin ramping up and But that's not to say he never deserved the awards or anything like that. He is super good. I personally think his best score is Apollo 13. I adore.
It's so good.
A, I adore that movie, but B, that score is perfect for that movie. So I always thought like he should have won for that.
Yep.
And again, as with A Beautiful Mind, this is probably a makeup for a lot of things or a career award.
Yeah.
He had that with Titanic.
Speaking of that, with ethereal female Annie Lennox, the ending credits,
sure,
Apollo 13. But he was up that year with another movie for best score.
Horner was?
Horner in 94.
Oh, so sorry. Yeah, back in 94.
Same year. He was on this.
This
he was on the same year twice.
Apollo 13 year, you mean?
Yep.
And that was 94.
And it won Best Picture.
In 94?
Yep.
What am I thinking of? Braveheart?
There you go.
It was not that same year.
They were the same year.
What?
Braveheart and Apollo 13 were the same year.
I thought that was 95.
No, that's Forrest Gump.
No. I think we're switched. It might be
90. Oh, sorry. The year
Yeah, I got you.
One.
Yeah,
Sorry, it came out. Yes.
I got you.
Release date. Yes.
Yep, Braveheart.
That year he lost both scores to Il Postino. You ever listen to that one?
Nope.
No one.
No,
has.
Braveheart is a good score too, though.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite.
Yeah. That's actually something. There you go. Apollo 13 and Braveheart are very different scores.
Yes.
So good on you, James Horner.
Yep.
R.I.P. All right. So Crow and Bettany obviously are starting in this movie together. They then starred together 2 years later in what Best Picture nominated film?
Oh, I'm going to butcher the name of it, but it's the freaking Peter Weir directed ship movie.
What? Oh, you said Ship.
Yeah, Ship
Okay,
movie.
good,
Oh, it's so good.
Yes, I was like, hold on, I will bust you down.
What is the name of it? He's the captain and he's the first mate, and it's
well, he's the doctor actually, but yeah,
sure. Master's Master and Commander
and Commander. Yeah,
that movie is so good.
Yeah, I wish they would make more.
Oh, they're in that together. That's so good.
I love that movie. I honestly just want to talk about that movie. Like
we'll get there.
We'll
get there.
Movie. Yeah,
it's one of those slow build movies that you go, wow, this is fantastic.
Yep.
Makeup artist Greg Canome,
sure,
not sure, who was nominated this year for makeup, but I don't know why, because it was terrible. But he did lose to Lord of the Rings. Yeah. Also won 4 Academy Awards for Dracula, Mrs. Doubtfire, Curious Case of Benjamin Button, and Vice. He did work with both Russell Crowe and Ron Howard before this movie. Can you name those 2 movies that he would have worked on with Russell Crowe and Ron Howard?
I mean, I guess Ron Howard Willow?
You blew it!
No.
I don't know. Like Apollo 13? Or I mean, what?
Old people
who
rejuvenate.
Sure. Lord, I can't think of the name though.
If a butterfly goes
I
into
know Cocoon.
There you go.
And he worked with Crowe, huh?
Yep.
On The Insider?
Yes.
Okay.
There you go.
I was like, that actually does have some.
Yeah. There you go.
I did not know that.
I did not know that till today either.
There we go. Okay, I have one more. Do you have more?
I have one more.
Okay, I have one more, and then I have a side note just about Bettany. But
okay.
Jennifer Connelly wasn't always, or really, the choice for Alicia. Because as you noted, Alicia Nash / Alicia Larda, I think it is, Larde.
Yeah.
Was Salvadorian. What Oscar-nominated actress was considered for Alicia Nash?
Oh, God. Nominated prior to this movie or after?
I think it probably would have been. It actually was around this time. I can't remember the exact year. It would have been after, probably.
Jeez,
It's a Hispanic actress, obviously.
Salma Hayek.
Correct.
Nice.
Yeah, nice job.
Yeah, that would make sense.
She was originally kind of considered for it based on the background, etc.
Yeah,
but
the year after this
was it Frida?
Frida. Yeah.
Which we're not watching next year.
No.
Nope.
It's not a very good movie.
Nope.
But my last trivia for you. It's not so much a trivia, it's more of a your choice is your option. Which of Akiva Goldsman's terrible adaptation screenplays is your least favorite? I'll give you 5 to choose from.
Okay.
Least favorite. Batman Forever.
Sure.
Batman and Robin, like you mentioned. Lost in Space. Transformers: The Last Night. Or Stephen King's The Dark Tower adaptation.
Oh, Dark Tower is easily the worst.
It's so bad.
Yeah, Transformers to me is like, I don't care. Like, that's not even an whatever, that's fine. The Batman and Robin, so Batman Forever.
Batman Forever
is actually better than time has remembered it to be.
Sure.
Batman and Robin is straight freaking garbage. It's absolutely terrible.
Yes.
But of all of the ones that you just gave me, I would have to go with
The Dark Tower.
The Dark Tower. Yeah.
And this is coming from
I have actually not watched it, full disclosure, but I had no interest because it was so bad.
So bad.
And had they done it the way they wanted to, which was in a few films, like they would have been a totally different
The Dark Knight series, I'm a huge Stephen King fan.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes, The Dark Knight.
You're also a huge fan of that.
The Dark Tower, yeah, exactly that. But the Dark Tower series of Stephen King, my favorite series. It's incredible. 7 books, wonderful. It's not easy to get into, but it's one of those movies you go, okay, I'll see how it goes. And I watched it and it's like, how could you do something so terrible to this? Slight note, I will give Akiva some credit where he does have, at least I think, 2 reasonably solid movies. I, Robot is good, and I Am Legend is decent. So you can have some diamonds in the rough.
He wrote The Client, which is it's kind of a word-for-word adaptation. He also did Time to Kill.
That's right, he did.
So, I mean, like, he does have, but that's more like better source material than anything else. The Client is almost a word-for-word adaptation. So, that's pretty easy.
But then he butchers this adaptation.
Yeah, exactly. So, I do think, like, he's just not very good. It is interesting why we just looking back on the Best Picture side, and we'll probably talk about that a little bit more in our awards episode, but boy, I could argue one of the things that this won for should have won for, and beyond that, you're like, really?
Oh, absolutely.
All right.
Yes.
So the last one I had, it's not even really trivia, but Paul Bettany has not been nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah.
And he's got a good career.
Yeah.
Both in TV and movies. Do you know when he was nominated for his first Emmy or Oscar? And only?
Please don't tell me it's like the MCU WandaVision.
WandaVision last year. Of all
his great work.
And he's awesome in WandaVision.
Oh, he's so good.
But I'm saying he's been around for so long and done so much work. He's only been nominated for 1 Emmy.
Oh my God.
And it was in 2021. And we're talking about a movie from 20 years ago. In fact, 2 this year with A Knight's Tale. And Paul Bettany, who he's
really
awesome
good.
in that too.
Yes.
I'm just like, really?
When
he's had 1 and it was
God.
for WandaVision last year.
Dude, when he delivers that line of, what is grief if not the perseverance of love?
Yeah.
Was incredible. That's a great, whoever wrote that for WandaVision, incredible.
Oh,
but
WandaVision is awesome.
His delivery, that's his first time ever?
Yeah, first and only.
Emmy? Oh, man. And think about that. Okay, yeah, we're talking forever, whatever about the movie, but we're like an hour into Beautiful Mind. But the fact that he can be a humanoid robot and be introduced in kind of a weird, but how he progressed in that character to this show, Paul Bettany's so good. So good.
All right. Well, I'm going to close this out then.
Yeah, you do that.
Yeah, we don't need to rant anymore. So, all right. Here we are at the end of our final full episode from 2021, where we took a look back at the movies from 2001. Stay tuned for our awards special episode, where we will provide you with our favorite beers that we had this year, as well as our picks for the best of the best from the films that we watched. Later this month, we will begin our foray into the movies of 2002, beginning with our second superhero film, Spider-Man.
Can't wait.
We want to say thank you for taking the time to listen and for clicking that like or subscribe button on your devices. Find us on Twitter at years_beers and on Facebook, or head to 20years4beers.com. This has been 20 Years 4 Beers. My name is Steve.
I'm Tim.
And thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Well, we're old pros at this, so we should probably just be ready, right?
Movie of the week. Shit.
I can't speak to what it's like to be a woman now. Suck on that, Meryl. Indubitably.